all right?
It's hard to care about someone that doesn't want to feel anything for people here.
And battles.
Excuse me. I'm still here. Do you not see me in your face right now?
I'll see you in Arizona with about 50 guys.
The 2-hour Paradise Hotel season finale is here. Who will Keith choose?
Well, Keith, thank you for making a very difficult decision.
I don't even know if it's the right one.
Which couple will be forced to check out?
This is to the 4 of us.
And just when you thought you had paradise all figured out.
Your biggest surprise of all would be how your summer in paradise will end.
Paradise Hotel saves the biggest twist for last.
This is the only way you can win the prize.
Next Wednesday, October 1st, starting at 8 on the 2-hour Paradise Hotel season finale. Don't miss it.
Don't miss the 2-hour finale of Performing Ass tomorrow on Fox. Alcohol abuse is no laughing matter.
Guess you've been wrestling with alcohol, huh?
Unless Wanda's covering it.
I should join this group just to show y'all up. What's the first step?
Giving up drinking.
Well, I can't be number one at everything.
Wanda, all new at 8/7 Central on the new Fox Friday. Fox Friday.
That sucked. What kind of cradle catch was that?
A power-hungry cheerleader is attacked.
Ah! Someone help!
But how do you solve a crime
The motive is clear.
The problem is evident.
with a squad full of suspects?
I wanted to kill her.
Boston Public, all new, 9/8 Central, Fox Friday.
First on Fox 29, power outages, tornadoes, and flooding from another storm.
A storefront surveillance camera is rolling when the tornado moves through New Jersey. We'll show you the video.
Residents in Havertown, Pennsylvania are literally picking up the pieces. Lots of pieces.
And rain is going to be a problem once again. More is on the way.
This is Fox 29, 10 o'clock news.
Still smoldering power lines in the pouring rain. This, the scene in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, as a fast-moving storm knocked down trees and knocked out power. The Norma Run Creek in Collegeville was one of several that flooded. The water was also high at Perkiomen Creek. And the parade of power trucks hit the roads as thousands of people lost power. Areas spared during last week's tropical weather paid their dues today, as our area just can't seem to catch a weather break.
And we have extensive team coverage tonight. 2 of 3 tornadoes in our area touched down in New Jersey's Mercer and Huntington counties. And you had to see it to believe it. People spotted the rare funnel clouds in Ewing Township and Flemington. Carla Ebbo is in Ewing Township. Carla?
Dave, I'm standing next to one of hundreds of trees that came down here in Ewing Township. If you take a look at the ground here, look at some of the debris we found here. This looks like a piece of a roof, and I think this is a part of a sign or something that broke off. If you take a look over there, you can see power crews are still here on the scene. Overhead, you can see just how many are working on this small area.
It was very frightening. It was something like out of a movie. It was horrible.
It swept through in seconds. The surveillance camera outside Tri-J Electric in Trenton was in the tornado's path. Look at the time in the right-hand corner. It's 8:25. By 8:27, it's already gone. Traveling in one straight line, the tornado knocked down power lines, uprooted trees, and shattered windows along the way.
Numerous roof partial collapses to buildings, numerous power lines, transformers, on top of vehicles.
And this was just in Trenton.
There was an individual who was struck by a pole. She was immediately taken to one of the local hospitals.
The destruction continued in Lawrence Township.
Power is out here in the central office and 5 of our 7 schools.
It was just a normal storm, and all of a sudden this huge wind came through. The tree just came down on the van, and the windshield is smashed, and the top's dented.
In West Windsor, the tornado ripped 4 huge 2,000-pound air conditioners right off the roof of Walmart. New Jersey Governor James McGreevey even took time to walk through the damage. Roofs, cars, storefronts, all destroyed tonight, and thousands of people are left without power, all in a matter of seconds.
Now, firefighters tell me that at one point, live wires fell on top of a school bus full of children. He says those kids were about to get off, but a firefighter stopped them right before they could get electrocuted. Luckily, no one was electrocuted in this storm. Live in Ewing Township, I'm Carla Ebbo, Fox News.
A lot of people are still without power at this hour. Most are scattered, though. PECO began handing out free dry ice in the Wynwood Shopping Center in Montgomery County. The booth on Wynwood Road will be open about 1 more hour.
Now, the storm ripped up trees and knocked out power and water in parts of Delaware County. One of the hardest hit areas was Havertown. Joyce Evans is there tonight. Joyce, what's the very latest?
Well, Dave, just take a look. Imagine coming out your door and finding this. 2 cars are buried under all these trees, and right behind it, a big old house across the street, all up and down the street, trees everywhere. Power has been restored to a lot of the neighborhood, but some don't have it. And just imagine, folks have been working out here all day. As you can see, they've got a long way to go on Rosewood Lane. And on top of that, many just got their power back last night from Isabel.
When I hear a roar of wind like I never heard before in my life.
I would say this was 10 times the intensity of the strongest winds we had from Isabel.
Something I saw and I don't want to see again.
Especially if this huge tree split your home in 2 while you were sleeping.
Went to close the window, turned around, and that's when the tree hit and the wall went in and out.
Joseph and Ann Clark are staying with neighbors for now. The amount of damage to their house is yet to be determined, but that's not the most important thing to them.
Nobody was hurt. That's all we care. These things are materialistic things. They can be replaced.
The slate roof and a lot more will need to be replaced at the St. Denis Church and School. Irreplaceable are some of the old headstones in the cemetery, smashed by fallen trees. As bad as it looks, Father Joseph Marino says it could have been a lot worse. Scaffolding outside the church prevented trees from crushing the sanctuary, and priceless stained glass windows. And only the principal was in the school.
Good thing it happened at 7:30 instead of 8:30. At 8:30, all the kids would have been on the corner, you know, waiting for the school buses.
Don't know when this house will be dug out from all of this debris, but the school will remain closed until further notice. However, the church will be up and running. They had Mass tonight at 5:30. They'll have Mass in the morning at 8:30. And they're out in the community trying to help people who are suffering through this storm. I'm Joyce Evans reporting live in Havertown, Pennsylvania. Back to you.
The SEPTA R5 line was shut down for part of the day after a tree crashed into overhead wires, then fell to these tracks. Train service was shut down about 7:30 this morning. Inbound service resumed before noon. Outbound service was restored a few hours later. In Narberth, Montgomery County, PECO crews are nearly finished, they say, with repairs that forced them to shut off power to the entire borough for about 6 hours. That damage was extensive in a confirmed tornado in that area. Bruce Gordon continues our team coverage.
It was over in minutes, a breakfast-time blast of heavy rain followed by short bursts of powerful winds.
I could see this tree really, you know how you see in a Wizard of Oz or something? You know, everybody's hair is back. I get no hair to go back. But
this century-old silver maple was ripped from the soggy ground and crashed down on the house just as Jeff Tyler's children were coming down the stairs.
As the tree came down, it knocked off some boards of the roof, and the wind blew those boards into the window and sent a lot of glass in, you know, on them.
All over the borough, large trees were toppled like dominoes or snapped like twigs. As homeowners surveyed the damage, many wondered how they survived.
It's like a paralysis of fear. You don't know what to do. I mean, I never heard anything like this. Now I can understand what it's like to be in a hurricane.
Professional tree removal crews could hardly keep up with the demand for their services. Like ER doctors at a crash site, they spent the day prioritizing their calls.
Triage, we call it. We're out there trying to figure out who's most in need and trying to, you know, head for the people that really need us most. Trees on houses, trees on cars.
Trees through a slate roof. Whatever got in the way got crushed.
I spend the whole day Sunday cleaning up the garage, and this is what happens.
Next time he'll know to spend his Sundays on the couch. Not surprisingly, the downed trees took power lines with them, blacking out much of the borough. ComEd crews in town to deal with Isabel were ready to head back to Chicago when this storm hit. The irony was not lost on homeowners.
I had electricity through Thursday, through Monday. I didn't have any problem.
No problem from Isabel, and now?
No. So I got delayed.
Terms like miraculous are thrown around an awful lot these days, but how better to describe a scene of widespread devastation like this without a single serious injury reported? Hard to believe as you survey the damage, but the mood here was expressed time and again. We were lucky. In Narberth, Bruce Gordon, Fox News.
Winds and rain blew through the Gloucester County town of National Park, just off the Delaware River. More than 30 homes were damaged. Dave Stratweiser has that part of our team coverage.
It was almost like I could see the wind coming and just...
Almost everywhere you looked in National Park, there was damage. Hundreds of trees were uprooted or snapped off by high winds that rolled through this tiny borough just before 8 a.m.
It scared me. It really scared me. I shut my window and ran screaming for my daughter.
Everything was blowing down the street kind of like horizontally, and the wind was so loud that I didn't hear the tree snap. I just heard this freight train of a roar.
Huge trees landed on cars, some on houses, and still more on power lines. Street after street was blocked by fallen trees or dangling electrical lines. One big tree crashed through the roof of this home, narrowly missing 2 young girls.
The branch came right between our head. Right through our head. Knocks the whole wall down. We're standing in terror. We scream running into the bathroom.
The storm tore off this roof, smashed this big shed, even wiped out this chimney, and bent this radio tower in half. On the riverbank, Wendy Durer watched the storm rumble across the marshes and into town.
I got taken out of here on a backhoe on Friday morning at 5 or 6 with my parrot because it was flooded. And now this, I don't know what else can happen here.
Despite the extensive property damage, downed trees and snapped power lines, police say there were no injuries reported here. Some streets flooded, then cleanup crews moved in. Armed with wood chippers and chainsaws, they chipped away at the widespread damage.
We had witnesses spot funnel clouds and saw a funnel cloud.
Power crews by the dozens arrived almost immediately. They blocked off streets, then disconnected dangerous power lines and begun trying to restore power, not to mention calm.
I had to be a strong tornado or something. I don't know. The winds were unbelievable.
In National Park, Dave Stratweiser, Fox News.
The heavy rains forced rescues in Upper Providence Township. At least one person had to be rescued from a vehicle when rain flooded the road at the ramp from Route 422 to Route 29. Work crews were out helping the owner of that minivan who got stuck in those high waters. Rural roads were also flooded in Lancaster County. The roads near this farm were washed out. This man was trying to maneuver through the water on his bicycle. Heavy rains caused flooding in Hocassin and Wilmington, Delaware. Several roads in Newcastle County were closed for a while today. It also flooded in Newark and Stanton.
And look at this. Umbrellas were no match for the rain and wind in Old City this morning. This woman, well, she found that out the hard way. At least a lot of people watched us last night and knew to bring the rain gear. Rob's in the Weather Center to explain what happened this morning. Hey, Rob.
Yeah, Dave, this is our 3rd round of severe weather in about a week. Last Monday at this time, we were talking about the flooding rains in Chester and Newcastle County. Then Isabel, now this. So let's go right to Doppler radar from earlier this morning, and this was around 7:30 this morning. This is a hook echo going into Narberth, and that's a signature of a tornado. An hour later, around 8:30, same deal. There's that hook echo going into Ewing Township just north of Trenton. So those were sure signs that there was a tornado about to occur, and it did. Now, there was flooding, as we mentioned, in Newcastle County. Lancaster County, Conestoga still has a flood warning, and we had some flooding up in this direction towards Trenton. Here's some new information. Confirmed straight-line winds in those 3 locations earlier. National Park, up towards Burlington City, and also in Princeton. And then, of course, the 3 tornadoes. They were F1s. Winds were up to 112 miles an hour. Coming up later on, more fascinating information about this morning's tornadoes, and more rain is on the way. I'll catch up with you later on. That's First Weather on Fox.
Coming up, is irradiated meat safer for you?
As local news gets.
Next on News 12 New Jersey, the first storm of fall knocks out power for some people around the state.
And battle lines are drawn in New Providence over local police contracts. It's all next on the Night Edition.
This is News 12 New Jersey, as local news gets. Now, the Night Edition.
Hello, I'm Walt Kane, in for Tom Layson.
And I'm Janine Strafasi. Thanks for being with us tonight. Parts of New Jersey saw some rough weather earlier today.
And the worst of it was in the west and central parts of the state. Just after 8 in the morning, a tornado touched down in Ewing Township along Arctic Parkway. Winds were strong enough to break power poles. One of them smashed into a school bus. The high winds also took down trees and smashed storefronts. Well, I guess the big question is, will this rough weather continue?
Meteorologist Mark Murphy's in the Weather Center. Mark, is it?
Janine Walt, no. We've had a spell lately. First Isabel comes through the area early on Tuesday morning. 2 tornadoes, 1 unconfirmed. Other reports of winds at 80 miles per hour, a lot of rain, some flooding. Here's the scene throughout that earlier part of the day. So let's go ahead. Quickly, we'll advance this. It all moves east into the Atlantic. By the end of it, now we're getting through the overnight period, Tuesday night into Wednesday. Clear skies across New Jersey. We've got much nicer things in the forecast. I'll talk about the rest of this work week. We'll also take a look at the upcoming first full autumn weekend. Stay with us. As I was saying, sunshine and some pleasant temperatures. I'll talk all about that a little bit later on in the show.
Well, Mark, at the height of today's severe storms, as many as 32,000 PSE&G customers were without power. By late afternoon, that number was down drastically thanks to the overtime put in by power crews. As News 12 New Jersey's Letitia Mile tells us, they are just as tired of this bad weather as we are.
Weary residents of South Jersey, still bruised by the impact of Isabel last week, find themselves weathering another storm.
The wind was blowing. All the roofs shot off.
Thunder.
R.E. Michael's roof blew off. Arctic Ice Cream's roof, part of that blew off. The house next to it moved off its foundation.
Today's tornadoes tore through lives in a number of towns across the state. Houses were flattened, trees were uprooted, and power went out to more than 32,000 customers.
The overhead wires that came down, poles snapped in many cases. In some cases, as you see on some of the pictures that we provided, the transformers came down. 75 poles that have been damaged, and a number of services, probably about 200 services. Those are the lines that are directly from the pole in front of your house to the individual homeowner. How you doing, sir? Good.
Governor McGreevey checked out the damage and thanked PSE&G crews for their hard work that seems endless on the heels of Isabel.
And it's a slow and meticulous process and very labor intensive.
From their command center in Newark, power crews were sent out to the storm-damaged areas, many of them the same ones who got the lights back on after Isabel.
So those folks have been working 16 hours a day since last Thursday. A little time with their family and a lot of time at work.
By late afternoon Tuesday, tired but tenacious power crews restored most of the power. All of it should be back on by Wednesday afternoon. Letitia Mile, News 12 New Jersey.
And between today's storm and Isabel, PSE&G will be spending between $2 and $4 million on repairs.
Police in Essex County may have finally solved a nearly 3-year-old murder thanks to increasingly popular...
In September, let alone in the morning, both are very rare around here, and it's rare to even get a tornado in the morning anywhere in the United States, is this very strong jet stream. This was moving along very quickly up in the atmosphere, and there was an area of low pressure that developed along this line, and that rarely happens. It was sort of a storm within a storm, and when you have an area of low pressure over the jet, it creates a hole in the storm, or actually the jet stream itself. So picture this as a slinky, sort of dating myself here, spiraling around. When you create that hole, the slinky then drops down into the low pressure and comes down, rotating into the ground. You can see it spinning right here, down into the ground, that slinky, if you will, and that's how you get the tornadoes. That hole in the jet stream creates all that air that gets sucked down into the ground and creates a tornado. Quickly moved out of here. We had a couple of showers north, and right now we're looking at pretty dry conditions. Now, the rainfall, check it out. It was to our west this time. Lancaster County over 3 inches, Reading over 3 inches, 2 around Chester County, but the streams weren't too bad there. Wilmington 1, Philly just under 1, and everybody a little less as you went south and east. Numbers for today.
Only 5 grams of fat and only at Burger King. Come on over. The fire's ready.